After missing the last train because he has worked late at night, Raida decides to take a nap. He wakes up later to a very loud noise, which he assumes is the noise of a video game. He doesn't want to stand up because he is enjoying his sleep. But unfortunately for him, he really has to stand. A little girl stands in front of him, looking at him weirdly, wondering if he is really human. He doesn't understand what is happening then, and to be candid, he isn't even trying to understand it. He is more interested in the nap he is getting. But seeing him there keeps making the girl wonder what he is and who he is. She has just killed a slime, and the slime dropped him as her reward. That is the first time she is getting such a weird reward. And considering their lifestyle in that world, she assumes that there is no way the slime would have dropped a human for her, and it would most likely be a huge piece of meat. She decides that the only way she can settle her doubts is to cut Raida and find out what he is. It is at that point that Raida realizes that if he keeps pretending to be asleep, he will come to a piece of meat to this young lady. He opens his eyes and asks her what she is doing. She screams and shifts from him, asking him what he is. That environment looks like a video game to him, but the last he can remember, it isn't the case that he is playing a game before sleeping off. So he wonders what is happening. He asks the girl how he has gotten there, and she tells him that he has been dropped by a slime. He asks her what she means by that, and she assumes he must be kidding if he insists that he doesn't understand how that world works. But she later realizes that he isn't joking and doesn't understand. She tells him they are into Lulu LV1, and in Lulu, they get rewards by killing slimes. She says that in level 1, the slimes drop bean sprouts, and that was what she was expecting after killing the slime. But she suddenly saw that the slime had dropped Raida. He asks her if it is only bean sprouts that slimes drop, but she tells him that it's not just bean sprouts, and everything in that world is being dropped by slimes. And there is no other means of making anything except by killing slimes. What she has no idea of is whether or not it is possible that the slime could have dropped a human being. Since he still doesn't understand her, she shows him what she is talking about. Suddenly, a slime appears before her, and at first, she goes to attack the slime. But the slime hits her about twice, and she loses several HP. Raida feels concerned for her, but she tells him he doesn't have to worry, and she is fine. She eventually succeeds in hitting the slime with the hammer on her hand. The slime falls and disappears, then bean sprouts appear, but in very small quantities. Raida eventually understands how it works. He asks her if she is sure they aren't in Japan, but she asks him what Japan is. He needs to be sure that he is at least still alive, so he asks her if they are on Earth. But she also doesn't know what he means by Earth. She keeps walking along the same corridor, and he gets bored of it. He asks her if she can't proceed to another stage, and she informs him that she is in Tallulah level 1, and she doesn't have the skills nor power to go to level 2 because her drop level and normal stats are too low. He wonders how she found out that her drop level and the normal level were too low and asks her how she got to know. She takes him to a board around there and tells her that the only way to know is to use the stat board. She puts her hand on the stat board, and the board brings out all the stats. Her strength is in level C, and her HP is in level D except for that, too. Every other thing on the board is in level Z, and if the board seems familiar to Raida, he recognizes it as the same board used in video games. And when he looks at it better, he sees another page on the board. He asks her about it, and she takes him to page 2. Page 2 consists of her drop stat. The drop stat determines the power of drops she has, and all her stats are in level E, which means that she can't get proceeds that are higher than normal. She complains that she can't proceed to level 2, and that is why she also has to make a living in a very low way because she can't sell her drops. She asks him if he also wants to check his stats since he is in that world already. It wouldn't hurt him to behave like they do. So he decides to check his stats too. She teaches him that he is to put his hand in a circular place, and when he does so, the board brings out his stats. The board shows that all his stats are in class F. He doesn't have any strength, neither does he have HP. She changes it to page 2, and when she does so, she sees that all his stats are in class S. She counts her alphabet from it to S, assuming that S is the lowest a person can get. So she tells him he is also low over there. He asks her if she is sure. In the video games he plays normally, level S is always greater than level A. She insists that it is the highest she has seen. So he asks if he could at least kill a slime and he can see what the slime will drop. He looks around, and she sees he is looking for a weapon. She offers him her own weapon, and he attempts to take it with thanks. However, immediately he touches the weapon is too big for him. It weighs him down, and he can't move. He wonders what could be the weight of the weapon. And when she also realizes that he isn't strong enough to carry that, she looks around to find him something lighter, and she gives him a bamboo stick. After he collects the stick, he waits for Slime to come out. When Slime comes out, she calls his attention to him, and he turns to fight the Slime. At first, he finds it difficult, but he eventually succeeds in stabbing the Slime. When the Slime disappears, the Slime drops a huge bean sprout for him. The young lady is very shocked, and he is also wowed. He tells her it seems level S is the highest and asks her if she has ever seen someone with level S before. She says no. He also asks if she has seen a slime drop that very sprout before, and she replies in negation too. So that seals his conviction that he is indeed special and has a unique skill in that new world. His stomach makes sounds of hunger. She hears the sounds too and tells him they should eat inside that same building. She sets up her fire and she cooks the bean sprouts that she has gotten. She serves him the food, and he enjoys it. He comments that bean sprouts with chili will go with beer, and she wonders if he is correct. He asks if she has never drunk beer before. She explains to him that in that world, your standard of living depends on how many drops you get. Her drops are low, so she can't afford beers. She serves him a liquid, and when he drinks it, he sees it is very warm. He is so glad that he starts crying. She assumes that she has done something wrong to him, and when she asks, he explains that it's been a while since he has ever had anything warm with another person. He works too much on Earth, and he even works extra time. As a result, he gets home late and buys snacks for supper. He worked himself so hard that he even fell sick. Due to the time he spent at the hospital, he had to work more, and that day he missed the last train because of how late he worked. And he decided to take a nap. It was in the process of doing that he found himself in that world. He concludes that it turns out all his efforts are without rewards. She goes to hug him. She tells him a popular comment that there is no way a person can work without rewards, and that waiting longer for his rewards means his rewards will be huge. Even if he dies without getting rewards, he will reincarnate into a life of enjoyment to enjoy his former works. Her words encourage him. He asks where they are going to sleep, and she says there are lodges in the town. She tells him that she can't afford an apartment, so she sleeps in that same place, but she hopes that one day she can afford an apartment. He attempts to leave, but she gives him the bamboo stick, telling him that he can't survive in that world without a weapon. He promises to repay her for all she has done for him and asks for her name. She tells him she is Emily Brown and says she is always at that level. And when he wants to meet her, he can check for her there. He tells her his name is Sato Ryota, but she finds it difficult to pronounce his name and calls him Yoda. He goes to the city, and he tries to understand how it works in that world. They send pilots. The bean sprouts he has gotten are 200 pilots. To rent a room is 2,000 pilots per night, and even the minor things are expensive. After getting the prices, he returns to Tallulah. At first, he felt he might have a hard time because of his level, but his S-class drops make it easy for him to sell his drops at a high rate. After working for 3 days, he eventually rents an apartment. He invites Emma there and shows her the house. He tells her the price, and she is so excited that he can afford that much in 3 days. He gives her the key, and she wonders what it is for. He tells her he is giving her the house to appreciate her for the stew she gave him. She can't believe her ears because it seems like too much. She tries to reject it, but he refuses. He attempts to leave, but she says she will make him stew. He requests for a cup of stew, but she says she will make him stew forever. He realizes she is inviting him to live with him, and he accepts the offer. He goes out that day to Tallulah. When he returns, he goes to sell his proceeds, and the lady there tells him that Tallulah level 2 drops carrots. And there is even a new dungeon named Nihonium, which the Neptune group is trying to investigate its drop. She asks him out for a beer, but he refuses and returns home. At home, Emily treats him so well. She has renovated the house, and she serves him food. She tells him that the Neptune group discovered that the Nihonium dungeon drops nothing. Regardless of that, he goes there the following day to check. He is confronted by a skeleton, but he finds it difficult to kill it. Luckily, a wall falls on it and it dies. The skeleton drops a seed, and when he holds it, he hears a voice that tells him that his HP has increased by 1. It continues, and he keeps increasing in HP. He goes home to tell Emily, and she also sees that his HP is increasing. She joins him at the dungeon, but when she kills a skeleton, nothing drops. And when she tries to touch his seed, her hands slip through it. After giving it several thoughts, he realizes that the dungeon is only for the S-class level, and only they can touch it. After working at that dungeon for a while, he decides to go to Tallulah level 2. He is confronted by a slime who hits him so well, but because of his HP level, he doesn't feel any pain. He eventually kills the slime, and the slime drops a very big carrot. He also meets some level 2 workers who mock him for his low level, and he finds a lady with rabbit ears behind him. The lady hits his head, saying she hates low levels, and she leaves. He returns home that night and shows Emily what he has gotten. He tells her he sold them for 8,000 pilots that day, and she is glad he is earning well. She takes the remaining carrots to cook, and they hear a knock. Ryota goes to check, and the visitor turns out to be the same lady with rabbit ears he met in the dungeon. She hits his head again, telling him she hates low levels. He wonders if that is why she has visited him, and she tells him that she loves him. Emily hears this by the door too,